Hi, my name's Bruce. Sometimes it's my classroom in the forest, but not today. Today I'm somewhere else, and I'm not sure if it matters, but maybe if you saw the last video, you sort of followed some of the journey. That's okay. This is my channel. If you like the content, please subscribe. I mean, just take a second and subscribe. I like it. I mean, it gives me satisfaction to see that someone has subscribed. It's what the heck? I never knew. And anyway, so I like to make videos about economics or talk about economics, and I like to talk about people, and I like to talk about things and ideas. Today I'm going to talk about commitment, failure, and letting someone down. And this idea of letting someone down or not letting someone down is related to economics because it's our personal commitment to each other that makes the society better. Okay. So someone said, hey, you tend to go on, and I admit it. Yeah, okay, I go on. That's fine. Someone else said, hey, you should rehearse. Whatever. I'll maybe later. The videos would be better, I think, if I did, but I don't. So anyway, World War II. Okay, World War II. My dad in World War II, he was in the Canadian Air Force, and he was stationed in Newfoundland, which at that time was not part of Canada. So it was a foreign assignment. And there is that. Then my dad had brothers and sisters, and his youngest brother, his name was Scotty. And Scotty, and my dad's sort of second oldest brother, his name was Huey. And Huey was assigned in World War II in our hometown the task of making sure that Scotty didn't run away. So anyway, they're down at the wharf one day, and Huey D turns his back, and what happened was, next thing you know, Scotty's gone. And he had gotten himself on a ship, and he joined the Merchant Marine. And you might have heard me before talking about the band Les Cowboys Fringants, and they're great. And they have a song called Marine Marchand, which is the Merchant Marine. So anyway, moving this along. So my dad's in Newfoundland, and it's World War II. And I think that if you're going to have a World War II experience, I think my dad's World War II experience in Newfoundland was pretty good. And at one point he meets up with his brother Scotty somewhere around Newfoundland. And this is kind of a little this video is a little tiny bit of an expression of my deep admiration for Newfoundland. Hopefully that will come across. Sometimes I fail. But so my dad had a good experience in Newfoundland. And then when I was a kid in 1976, my dad gets this idea that I too should have a good experience in Newfoundland. And so I don't want to say shipped off, but I left my home and went to St. John's, Newfoundland, and I took a bicycle trip. And the bicycle trip, the Newfoundland part was St. John's, Newfoundland, around what I think is the Avalon Peninsula, and we saw Bay Roberts and Fogo, not Fogo, but we did see a bunch of places. Heart's Content, Heart's Delight, Heart's Desire. It was great. And I have a lot of great experiences from that time. Now you remember I was 10 years old. But that's not what this video is about. Okay, but I have strong feelings for Newfoundland. Now, fast forward a little bit, and it's winter here right now. It's cold. I'm not super cold, but it's cold. It's not super snowy, but it's winter. Now, I was getting married, and really getting married was great, is great, it's wonderful. Okay? And before I got married, I returned to Newfoundland and I journeyed by myself, kind of a journey of discovery, whatever you want to call it. And I'm in the Great North Western Peninsula of Newfoundland. I headed from Port aux Basques, and I headed up to St. Anthony, which is a northern point, and then I headed down the east coast of the Great North Western Peninsula to a place called Engleigh, and I had some interesting things happen there. But as I'm driving along, and if you recall some of my earlier videos, I talk about the joy of photos, and I sort of, at that time, I was really actively working to etch my mark on the side of the cave wall in the form of portrait photography, and photographing people, and photographing them in what I'd hoped to be a bit of a meaningful context. And if you know me well, there's people that know me, you know, I'm pretty good at meeting strangers. It's practically my magic power. I meet a lot of strangers, and I enjoy it. I've had professional engagements where it was my job to talk to strangers in hospitality settings and in industrial settings, and in some industrial settings I'd get sent along to resolve disputes that had been hitherto untractable, and just patience and kindness solves a lot of problems. So, going along with this, I'm going to back it up a bit to about 1984, right around 1984, so 84, 85, one of those years. One of those years, I was at my parents' business, and we used to stay in the back, and I'd have the radio on, and Sunday morning I'm listening to the news, as I always do in Canada, and I heard this story, and it was from Newfoundland, and a fishing boat had sunk. And on the fishing boat that sunk, there were 5 fatalities. I think 3 brothers and a father and another person who was unrelated to the family. And then I head off years later, and I go to Newfoundland, and I'm traveling along. And at one moment I'm in a cemetery. I don't spend a lot of time in cemeteries, but I was in a cemetery in a town called Bartlett's Harbour. And in the cemetery in Bartlett's Harbour, it's a Sunday morning, and I'm walking along, and I see a couple of women, and there's one woman, and she's behind me or something, and she sees me, and it's a Sunday morning, and she says, in a kind of a charismatic way, with a little tiny bit of the previous evening's party still in her bones, she says to me, she goes, "Well, you got any strength? Strength? Do I have any strength?" And what she was doing was she was carrying bags of white ground limestone from her car to the grave. And the grave was the grave of her brothers and her father, the Myers. And they were the people that I had heard years earlier, and their boat sank. So I helped her with her limestone. And then I helped her with the cleaning up of the grave, and I met her sister. And this went on for a bit. And then I came along, and her mother's house was adjacent to the cemetery. And I met her mother, and she didn't make me, she served me Sunday dinner. And it was Jig's dinner. It was beautiful meal Sunday, and it was wonderful, and they were very kind, and they had no reason to be kind to me. I mean, really, I didn't have anything to offer that was worth offering. I didn't have anything. All I did was I was there. Okay, I was there. That's that. That's those guys. And you know, part of the reason for me talking about this stuff is because over the years I've been on the planet, I learned that every person is walking along and they have a story inside their head, and they're playing a story, and sometimes you're engaged with the world as it's coming to you in this moment, and sometimes you've traversed time and you're back in time, or sometimes you've traversed time and you're in the future part of time. and you're cemented in, and you're living your life, and that's it. You have a story, and everybody I think has this. So when I saw the story there, it was like, wow. So later on that day, I'm traveling along and I see these fellas, and they're out in their boat and they're hauling in the nets, and it's pretty it's picturesque. It's beautiful. I mean, I find these things beautiful. Maybe not everyone does, but I do. And so I stopped and I waited, and they brought in the boat, and these guys, they were about as professional as fellas as you'd ever want to meet. These guys were serious pros. I mean, if they took their level of professionalism to any aspect of your life, you would be happy. You would be happy to experience that. If a tradesperson showed up at your home to do a job and he was half as professional as these four guys, you would be happy. So these four guys, they come in with their boat. They pulled the boat up, and they cleaned the boat, and they cleaned themselves, and they offloaded their catch. And their catch was about, I'm going to say 12 pounds, let's stick it into pounds, of capelin. Now, capelin are fish. They're about this big, they're small, they're not worth very much. And these guys had gotten up in the morning, and they had applied every molecule of their professional trade to going out that day and catching this 12-pound catch of capelin. Wow. But I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, fellas, you look fantastic. Let's get a photo. So I got a photo, and I'll share it with you, but I got a photo, and I like it. I mean, I got this picture. They're great guys, beautiful, four beautiful men, highly professional at their craft. Okay, these guys. Then anyway, moving this along. So later, I travel a little bit farther, and I come across another fella in a barn, and the guy's walking around. He's a bit suspicious of me, as you know, sometimes people are suspicious, and they don't, you know, they don't. You look at me. Are you suspicious? Do I seem suspicious? He was suspicious. He thought I was like a government inspector, or an agent, or a fisheries department authority, or a taxman, or something like this. He thought. So anyway, we're talking, and then he finally says to me, well, come along then. So I said, okay, come along then. Come along. And he says, come along then. I mean, for me to go with him, but really it was for him to come with me, and I'd drive and he'd point. We'd wind up where he wanted to go. Okay. So he gets in the car, and remember now, it's about Sunday afternoon. It's like 4:30, 5 o'clock, something like that. Traveling along, and we're driving along the shore, and then we're going up the hill, and we're going past the houses, and we're feeling the wind. I had the windows rolled down, and it felt beautiful. And this guy, he wasn't much for talking. So finally, we get to the end of a road, and at the end of this road was another cemetery. It was a small cemetery. So we get out of the car, and he's walking along, and he starts talking. He says, you know, when I was a kid, we skated here all the time. Yes, come here in the wintertime, and we skate. Bring our skates, hockey sticks, play hockey and skate. He says, so one day it's wintertime, and I came here with my brother and with another guy, and we were skating, and we were kids. He said, I think he said he was 9 years old at that time. And he said it wasn't super cold, but it was cold. And while this is transpiring, he had turned his back, and then the guy that he was with and his brother, they had fallen through the ice. And then for whatever reason, they tried to get out, and they slid further into the ice. And this guy, he's telling me this story, and he's saying that the ice is thin. It's thin because he fell through. But he says, but the ice is thick. And it's thick because he couldn't break it apart with his hands, with his feet, with his skates, with his hockey sticks, with his anything. And he's looking down into this ice through this clear ice. The ice was clear. And he could see his brother's face. And he could see the other guy's face. First they were panicked, and then they were fading away. And he didn't know what to do. He's a kid. He's like 9 years old. So eventually he ran. He got help. Help came. Didn't come soon enough. So then the guy stands up. He's talking to me. He says, come over here. Over there. And there it was. The one headstone, the two graves. It was his brother's. His brother and his friend from that day. And I was like, wow. You know, and I look at that guy when I met him, and he's kind of angry, and not angry, but he had something that was, you know, it was something. So anyway, so back to where the building where he had been, and so we got a photo, quick photo. I was all right, this gentleman. Yeah, I thought he was a lovely man, really. I wonder where he is now. I wonder that a lot. But, whoa, that's it. And I don't know what you think of this video or this story, but it's more than 20 years. And I think about this a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean, I was telling my young relative, nephew, the other day, kind of a story about something similar, but I was gonna maybe not include it this go around. I said I'll tell him about a day that I think about every day. And this is another day that I think about it every day. Everything that transpired on that day, I think about every day. I mean, I don't want to say it. I stop and it impedes my day, but sometimes if I'm speaking with someone and it, you know, it's not going that well, I think of this and that. You just have to make allowances. You gotta make allowances because you don't know what it's the other person's story, and that's the story. And you know, the people of Newfoundland are wonderful. People of the Great North Western Peninsula, you're wonderful. And the people of St. John's, you're wonderful. Fogo, wonderful. Tilting, wonderful. Jobat's Arm, wonderful. You know, Placentia Bay, wonderful. Monte Vista, wonderful. Trinity, wonderful. I got a story about Trinity. We'll save it for another day, but I'll tell you, Trinity. And this guy and those brothers that drowned in that day, they're wonderful because I met their mother. And she made me dinner, and she was wonderful. So, Marjorie Myers, if you perchance happen to ever see this, and if your family is doing well, I hope you're doing well, and thank you for dinner. There you go. Yeah. My name's Bruce. This is my channel. That's it. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Bye now.